Sure. Mhm.
So we are now in broadcast mode.
Excellent. And we have about 2 minutes before it's 5:30, so this is fine. Mhm. Have you talked to Emily over at Harriman at all, Rob?
Not recently, sir. And we're also recording, by the way. Oh, I did. I'm sorry. I take that back.
Mhm. How's she
We can
doing?
talk about that afterwards. Very good.
She did a good job at the finance meeting.
I need to watch that video.
Yeah, she did a real good job. And, you know,
Hang on just a second. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us this evening on this webinar / public meeting. As you are in attendee mode, you will not be able to speak directly until you're recognized. That sounds terrible, and I apologize for that. But in your chat, in your box next to your name, you should be able to raise your hand when time comes to ask questions. We're going to be starting with a quick presentation by myself, and then we're going to open it up for discussions, for questions and discussions with Councilor Thompson and with Robert Jenkins, the Executive Director of the Brockton Redevelopment Authority. So please bear with us for a couple more minutes as we get more attendees joining us, and we'll be starting probably 2 minutes from now.
Mr. May, I do have 5:30, so do we want to go ahead and start?
I'm going to wait 1 minute after 5:30, just in
I
case
see.
other people join us.
Sure. I see Councilor Thompson has.
He stepped away for just a second, but
I'm back, Rob.
okay. I'm going to wait 1 more minute and then ask you to give a welcome, and then I'll take over a presentation, and then we will go on to discuss the proposal. So thank you all for joining us this evening. Again, you're in attendee mode. If you see your name on the side or near your in the list of attendees, you can raise your hand when it comes time, or actually what I will probably do is promote you all and we can have a free-for-all conversation. That'll be a little bit easier that way. So with that, it is now 5:32. And so Councilor Thompson, if you want to give a welcome.
Thank you, Rob. And thank you, Bob Jenkins, and everybody else who is joining us for this presentation today. The Trout Brook development is the most important development project outside of our downtown in our city's history. Now, we have an opportunity to plan and design from the bottom up 36 acres of wild land near the heart of our downtown. The Trout Brook Urban Renewal Plan is a vitally important step in the process of Brockton attracting high demand and high paying 21st century jobs for our residents. This 20-year plan will be modified and adapted in the future to meet the needs of our business community and our residents. But it is imperative that the process of designating Trout Brook as an urban renewal district should move forward without delay. With that, Rob, I'm gonna, if it goes to you, if it goes to Mr. Jenkins, the floor is
Mr.
yours.
Jenkins? Mr. Jenkins,
Nope.
would you like to say something?
Sure, just like to thank people for participating. We are, just a reminder, we are holding 2 of these public meetings. The second one will be held Thursday, October 15th, from 6 to 7 p.m. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and let Rob do the presentation of our Trout Brook redevelopment plan. Rob?
Thank you very much, Robert. Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be going through the presentation that was made before Finance Committee of the City Council. At that time, on September 8th, Robert Jenkins was joined by our consulting associates at Harriman in making this presentation. And Mr. Jenkins has also agreed to the 2 additional meetings. It's been 2 years. I can't believe it, 2 years since we started this process. That was long before COVID and long before, the current recession or jobs loss that we're in. But we have an opportunity here, as Councilor Thompson said, to really plan for the future of Brockton. So, our agenda tonight is that we're going to discuss the urban renewal plan boundary. We'll discuss the qualifications or why this area is qualified as an urban renewal district. We'll talk about the CSX area plan, the plan objectives, financial plan, the approval process, and implementation of the plan. So on your screen, you can see a general overview of the CSX area, and I hope you can see my cursor, but for those of you who are familiar with the city, this is the Brockton Police Station and the the MBTA commuter rail stop. Just north of that is Court Street, and behind all of Court Street, we have the CSX land and planning area. You can see Trout Brook running north and south through the plan, and we'll discuss Trout Brook, and Trout Brook is where we get the name of the planning district from, but we will discuss that in more detail in just a second. I've got to move Robert's picture around, so we're, there, good, hitting it. The CSX parcel itself has been vacant since the 1980s. People who have lived in the community for a long time might remember that it was used to store rail cars and to deliver bulk materials to industrial users throughout the area. However, since the 80s, the land has not been utilized by CSX. And in fact, they have moved all of their rail operations, freight rail operations, to Worcester, where they've built a new terminal. The area is also qualified for an urban renewal district because we know of hazardous materials that are on the site, both from materials that fell off of the trains or where oil or fluids leaked from the trains, but also because of some of the uses that were at the site, including iron and steel recovery facilities that are at the heart of the site. The area is also in a regulatory flood zone. It qualifies because the size and irregular shape of the parcels make it difficult to be redeveloped by a single owner. and because of limited access, because of the rail underpasses make it difficult for trucks to get in and out of the area. We're going to talk about each one of these in a little bit more detail as we go through the plan. And my slides aren't advancing. I apologize for that. There we go. Sorry. So this slide shows all the different owners by lot area. We have a list of all the owners, but here we're just trying to show them in general colors. So you can see here is the CSX parcel in yellow. It is the largest piece of property on the site or within the district, but there's also property that's owned by the city of Brockton, property that's owned by Verizon, various landowners in and around the area, and some small residential holdings in the district. This illustration shows the boundaries of where we know hazardous materials are found. The largest area here outlined in yellow is actually property owned by CSX. This other piece of property here, which is owned by Brockton Iron and Steel, and it's a materials recycling recovery facility, and so there is some contamination associated with that process. I should point out that both of these sites are going through the state's cleanup program, which is called 21E. It's run by the Department of Environmental Affairs, and currently they are and have requested a use limitation on those properties, which means that they are cleaning them up to an industrial standard, which would allow for commercial and industrial uses, but would not allow for residential uses on those sites. Additional cleanup would have to be done for that. We also want to talk about the regulatory floodway through this area. We have Trout Brook, one of the many small rivers and streams that runs through the city. It runs north and south. You can see the designated floodway, which is in the dark blue, but just as important, you can see in the lighter blue is a flood zone. This is an area that is prone to flooding. It includes four houses, excuse me, on the north side, on the opposite side of Elliott Street, that flooded more than once in the last 10 years. Again, you've seen this site or this illustration before, but it shows the irregular shapes of the parcels and the sizes of the parcels. Those are one of the requirements for becoming an urban renewal district. And then lastly, we want to talk about access to the site. There are rail underpasses at Elliott Street and then on Court Street that prevent large trucks from reaching this area. So as freight moved from boxcars to the shipping containers, the whole railroad business changed. And so instead of unloading boxcars of various size boxes, you know how these rather large containers that sit on flatbed trucks, their height make it very difficult for them to get underneath these railroad viaducts into through downtown and then off onto Route 24. So that's one of the reasons why CSX has decided to get out of the freight business at this site and move it off to Worcester. The truck viaducts really, or the viaducts make it really difficult for trucks access. So the plan as we have it, and again, we've spent a year, over a year, working with stakeholders, including property owners, adjacent residents and experts in real estate and whatnot to come up with a development plan that connects and reintegrates this vacant property back into the city. If you look at Trout Brook, we use it as a defining element in the district. It runs north to south, and what we would like to be able to do is, as part of this redevelopment project, is to create a pathway that will connect Snow Park here on the south through the site and through improved green and open space out onto Puffer Playground on the north side. So for years, these two neighborhoods have been cut off from each other because of the railroad tracks. And this plan will help us reopen that area as a public amenity. The largest land use in this area is the commercial flex. There are several opportunities to create new industrial and commercial space. We call it commercial flex because there's a wide variety of commercial and light industrial uses, and I do want to emphasize light industrial uses that could go on in here. And this is a zoning category that we would create through City Council, and it also allows these. The zoning would also allow these buildings to be reconfigured quickly as tenants come and go. There wouldn't be special purpose buildings that could only be used, say, for meat packing or iron smelt. Well, we wouldn't have iron smelting. I'm sorry, that's a bad example. But it allows for flexibility of use. The next largest land use in this area is this green space here that we hope to use as flood storage, but also as green space. All projects need to have some green space, and rather than creating a large detention basin that, surrounded by a high fence and nobody can see into it, if we create some flood storage areas upstream here on Trout Brook, it's going to help our neighbors to the south. Just south of here, Trout Brook and the Salisbury River connected with each other. Or Salisbury Brook become the Salisbury Plain River. But if we could hold some of that stormwater and floodwater upstream, we would certainly help the folks downstream. The next area that we want to talk about is how do we infill some residential development, some single family homes, starter homes along Elliott Street, along Moody, and reconnect these neighborhoods. Here's Talbot and Williams Street. Right now, those areas just kind of dead end at the tracks. But in our planning process, most people thought it would be great to reconnect those neighborhoods, create a walkable environment, and give people who are interested in home ownership an opportunity to invest in our community. And the last section we have down here, closest to the rail yards, are mixed-use buildings that could be multi-tenant or multi-residential with ground floor commercial, whether it be office or retail. They could also become office buildings. It's not guaranteed that they are all multifamily buildings, but this is an area of higher density because it's adjacent to the train station, the MBTA station, and downtown, whereas you move out farther into the neighborhood and you get lesser density and you build more at a neighborhood scale. The plan has a couple of different goals, and that's to develop a major underutilized site. It's to mitigate environmental contamination in the area. It's to create a mix of flexible uses that support jobs and market rate housing and home ownership even in Brockton. Also to create a walkway that connects the two parks with each other that knit these two neighborhoods back together, to provide stormwater management and flood storage, and to also remove invasive species along the brook and return it to a more natural condition. So as you can see, we're going to go a little bit more into those in detail. You can see that this is one of the largest pieces of undeveloped property in the city. It's a stone's throw from downtown. And so while it is currently zoned for industrial use, we think that a light industrial or a more commercial flex would be more appropriate for this area, given its location and how difficult it is to get under the MBTA tracks. We also are proud to be putting forward the first purpose-built industrial commercial park in the city's history. Most of the development that we've seen happening in Brockton over the years has been kind of haphazard. It's somebody's owned a piece of property and put a factory on it, and then somebody buys the next door. But here is a purpose-built. We plan on bringing in all new utilities and being able to then use this property and the infrastructure that we put into it to attract developers to build out in a thoughtful manner and to take advantage of the amenities that we're creating here and to bring those jobs, high-wage, high-tech, high-skilled jobs to the area. Again, we also talked about the path that we'll create through here. It's part of what's called the Two Rivers Plan, which looks at creating more open space along the Salisbury Brook and the Trout Brook as they come through the north side of the city and then become the Salisbury Plain River as it leaves downtown and heads south. You can see that there's more flood storage capacity here, as well as improvements to the natural landscape that is going to help clean the water as it further runs downstream into the Taunton River watershed. We do have a fiscal plan or a financial plan that is in the planning document. The planning document is available on the city's webpage under the Planning and Economic Development site. It identifies anticipated costs and sources for funding to pay for those costs. Now, I should note that it is a very generalized plan. We try to use as much third-party funding for this project as possible, coming from the state and the federal government. One of the things that we're looking at right now is how do we use FEMA dollars to build out the stormwater management area and to do the site acquisition. So the financial plan is going to change as opportunities come forward, and we will see different programs leveraged to really create this vision and bring it into reality. We're in the public approval process right now. The Brockton Redevelopment Authority has had its public meetings back in October of 2019, pre-COVID. Likewise, the planning board has met to confirm that the plan conforms to the city's master plan, a blueprint for Brockton. Right now, we're in the city council approval process. And then once that is done, it will go off to the Department of Housing and Community Development at the state. They also need to approve this plan. And hopefully that will be sometime in December of this year. And we hope to have an approval by early spring. The role of the BRA is many. It's as a redevelopment authority, it could acquire land to assist private developers in assembling parcels. And I want to underscore acquire land, that the BRA has in the past and will continue, and I can't speak totally for Robert, but it has been our philosophy that when we say acquire land, it means to cause land to be acquired. So for the most part, we're working with private developers to get them to invest in the site. And it's only after they've reached agreement with the BRA would BRA take some sort of more active role in the site acquisition. But for the most part, we're looking at private developers, and we're looking at other ways to acquire the sites rather than have BRA use its funding or city funding to do that. We also have to relocate incompatible uses. The BRA is also working with the city as it rezones this area to get the kind of development that we want on here. Right now, this is zoned for a general industrial district, and that allows a myriad of uses that we may not want here. And so by creating a special zoning district for this area, we get exactly what we want with the way the buildings are supposed to look, but just as important, what kind of uses are going to be allowed here. And then likewise with the creating of design guidelines and coordinating the implementation of the project. And that's very important for BRA. The plan identifies parcels that are considered, and I'm doing air quotes, acquisition parcels and disposition parcels. The acquisition parcels, again, are sites that are owned by private entities or by the city that will be transferred somehow to or through the BRA to a third-party developer, an independent developer. Right now, and then some of those parcels will stay in the BRA's hands, especially all the open space and the river area, the river walk, that will remain held by the BRA or by the city to ensure that those are all open to the public. Now, you may own property in this area. Those of you who are listening to this conversation, that does not mean that we want to put you out of business. The exact opposite, we want to help you grow. But you may be in a position that your property has more value to you as a redevelopment site than it does as its current use. And for instance, a building that is sitting here on the frontage area that has been well-established business in the city of Brockton may be one of these commercial flex tenants that then allows for the redevelopment of the frontage parcels. And BRA is here to help negotiate those kinds of redevelopment strategies. BRA also has a role in improving the green and open space and the pedestrian amenities throughout the site. And with that, I am finished with the presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment, but I may have to pop back into that. But I'm going to let or bring the attendees online so that they can ask questions. And promote to panelist. Oops. So, for those of you who have questions, if we could ask those questions one at a time, we ask you to please give your name. And if you own property in or around the area, we would love to know what your address is. And then we are recording this, so and we'll be creating notes out of this. Robert's going to be taking minutes. There is a person on the telephone that unfortunately I cannot promote you to be a, oh, there it is. I can allow you to talk. There's another button that I can do that. There we go. So, Counselor or Robert, are there any comments that you would like to make before we start taking questions?
No, I think this is actually a good refresher, Rob. As you said, we've been working on this for 2 years now, pre-COVID. We know that, this plan is going to probably, not probably, it's no doubt going to be amended in the future. So here's a good opportunity for folks who, I don't know if people are just seeing this for the first time. It's been on our website, like you said, Rob, for almost a year now. So we're anxious to refresh folks' memory just so that you can see what's going on. And as Rob had indicated earlier, I promised City Council that we would hold 2 public meetings. Just a reminder, folks, the next one will be on Thursday, October 15th from 6 to 7 p.m. And we'll send out reminders as well. So with that, let's open it up. Unless Councilor Thompson.
I do want to recognize that Councilor Nicastro has joined us.
Ah, yes.
From the 4th Ward. Oh, John Messina.
From the mayor's office.
From the mayor's office. Thank you, John. So most of you are on mute right now. If you have a question, please unmute yourself and or comment, and we will try to address that. And if not, we are taking notes, and we will create a frequently asked questions page that will be available on the website.
Someone must have some questions. Don't be shy.
You put John on the hook.
Rob, may I ask you a question?
Yes, Counselor.
I was hoping maybe you could discuss specifically, what is an urban renewal district, and how does that help? How does that help incentivize developers to participate in developing this land?
Okay, that is a good question. Urban renewal comes from a federal program that was started after World War II, and it has a lot of baggage with it, I gotta say. So people might remember the West Side of Boston, and the BRA, the other BRA, created an urban renewal district and just went out willy-nilly and started acquiring property and tearing stuff down. That legislation, still exists, but that's not what we are trying to do here. We are looking at a sort of a developer-led process where the BRA will be able to use its authority under that old language that then gives it the authority to work with developers who are interested in acquiring and redeveloping this land. So, the old language of the legislation discusses the removal of slum and blight. Unfortunately, those are terms that have been around for over 50 years. We're kind of stuck with those. We're not saying that this is a slum. It is what the state would consider blighted open space. And that's because the CSX area itself, the CSX land, has been home to some nefarious activities over the last several years, including a homeless encampment. It's a little bit lawless, and we thank our colleagues at the Brockton Police Department for trying to maintain safety at that area. And the same with the Brockton Fire Department as we've had problems in that area pop up. But again, urban renewal creates a set of guidelines and invests authority within the Brockton Redevelopment Authority to implement this plan over the next 20 years. Without creating an urban renewal district, all we have is a bunch of pretty pictures. So it's very important that we have the power to implement this plan vested in a public body like the BRA, and that will survive different administrations as they come and go at the state or at City Hall, that we have a publicly advised plan that is approved by City Council and approved by the state to be implemented.
Let me also, if I could just jump in, Rob, and add, back in the 50s and 60s, even Brockton had funds to do urban redevelopment, UDAG. Most municipalities did. I know Brockton had a section of town where they actually tore down a bunch of 3 families, triple deckers, flats. What the urban redevelopment funds do now is it instills a process, and I don't want to get too technical, but it instills a process where you can develop, as Rob described, neglected, distressed, dilapidated properties within a district. It provides also a plan, and this I think is the most important thing. It provides a plan for development, for developers who are looking to invest in certain municipalities. We have a lot of advantages here in Brockton. And this is really, as Councilor Thompson pointed out, this is the last section of Brockton that's probably going to be developed in this large of scale. It is about the future of Brockton. As we said, this is a 20-year plan. It does provide incentives. It actually gives developers a guide to how the city would like to see itself develop, or this particular area developed. A lot of times, and I've seen a lot of municipalities that don't have plans, whether it's a urban renewal plan, urban revitalization plan, that gets stuck with what a developer, as Rob said earlier, stuck with what a developer proposes because it meets zoning. Here's an opportunity for us to think about our future, the city's future, its tax base, and to actually have a say early on what we'd like to see this close to downtown, to be quite honest.
Again, if I've moved all the attendees into the panelist section. If you have a question, please unmute your microphone. And if you could graciously, one question at a time. Also, if you're a little camera shy, that's fine. You can email your questions to planning@cobma.us. And Robert, what's your email address?
It's rjenkins, Jenkins, at BrocktonRedevelopmentAuthority.com. You can also do we have chat here, Rob, as well? You don't
We
want
do
to...
we do have chat and question and answer. So
Okay.
if you're more comfortable with typing,
The east side of Boston for 100 years.
that
They're always supposed
is
to go.
fine also.
Mhm. I see Mr. Fisk and Mr. Riley.
They're lining up. They've unmuted. So,
Hi, Rob. George Fisk.
hey, how are you, Mr. Fisk?
Yeah. Well, as a member of the Board of Health too, also as a member of here at Court Street, I started my funeral home down here, and I've been here quite a few years on Court Street. And I guess I can see from the thing, I don't think I'm due to get the axe there from what I can see. But,
No.
But
Let's not call it an axe. It's not an axe.
I might, my friends down the Club National think it's an axe, and I'm a member of the Club National, and it's an axe. But anyway, I just, it's been a long time with a tent city and the conditions that were out there, and it looks like a very, very beautiful type of thing that eventually could be done. I was just concerned with some of the other things, on Court Street and so forth. It's too bad that there's a certain social club and there's some other people that put a lot of money into different things. And now it's, they can see it that it might not be there tomorrow type of thing. So I was a little concerned about them. I also had it seems like it's a great idea to do this, but I think I'm a little more concerned with the down street and, Bill Carpenter's dream years ago of having a two-way street with, little restaurants and little shops and everything. I'd like to see, things maybe centered around that type of, thing a little bit more than this. And, and I'm also concerned with, the areas around too. Maybe we should just buy, a lot of lawnmowers, because it seems like a lot of people are not doing and keeping up their properties. And, maybe Brockton should invest in lawnmowers with the instructions. But those are just a few compliments.
Here's a good thing, I think, Mr. Fisk. If we do eventually get to this and, we have open space and the city's taking care of the properties and we bring other property on, home ownership, that people will take a more interest in their property. You know what they say, if one window is broken on the street and nobody repairs it, they just neglect it. But if people start taking care of their property, even your neighbors will start doing it. One thing that someone told me a long time ago, the late Richard Sergi told me, where there is public investment, private investment will follow. So thinking of that, I think this is a good public investment. As we said, we're looking to use the market and private investment to kind of get this thing done. But we have a plan. And right now, that's all it is a plan. And I understand your concern. It's interesting because I've talked to the gentleman who bought the Iron Works, I believe, who invested, and actually it was for sale and he bought it. He gave me a call and I told him, and he was buying it for his grandchildren, he told me. He was buying it for his grandchildren. And I said, it's still a good investment. This is a plan that in most development plans, from my experience, takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years to kind of implement. This is a 20-year plan. It's still a good investment. I think he bought it. I don't know. But that's the advice I gave him. I'd give the same thing to the French Club. 5, 7 years. No one said you had to go anywhere. There may be some relocation on the site for you. Understanding relocation, we'd have to pay for that. But once again, this is a 5-year, and I don't want to get too deep into the woods because once again, this is going to be a 20-year plan. Who knows what's going to happen in 20 years? Hopefully, I won't be here, but you never know.
Well, I don't know if I'll be here either, but I have both of my sons that are both funeral directors and run with me with my business, and they're right here listening to everything. And I just wanted to throw out a few comments and ideas about the situation. But it does look like a very beautiful idea to have things done, and it's always a good start. But then again, like I said, I'd love to see the downtown be the first thing that's done with the two-way traffic and the nice shops. I've seen places like Keene and the little restaurants and stuff. I think that would be a big thing to get to go ahead now that we've got the other, the parking garage and so forth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me have a comment. Thank you, Rob.
You're quite welcome, Mr. Fisk. And I do want to address some of your concerns about downtown. They are still moving forward and at a good speed despite COVID. And as Councilor Thompson can attest, we are working with, Robert in particular is working with several developers who have expressed interest in parcels and is in the process of negotiating with them now. We expect to see Trinity begin their phase 2 project next spring, which is right next to the Carpenter Garage. The DPW department will start construction on the new road that connects Court Street to Petronelli Way through Franklin. That's the first project towards two-way traffic. I myself am working with Larry Raleigh at DPW and the city engineer as we are trying to apply for funding from the Economic Development Administration that will allow us to do the construction drawings for converting Main Street and Warren Avenue to two-way traffic and making the streetscape improvements throughout downtown. So we have not taken our eye off of downtown, but this is the next next neighborhood that we want to get to. We also plan on working in the Campello neighborhood. We have some work going on on the east side. It's also in Councilor Thompson's ward. He's getting a lot of attention here, I guess. We need to spread that around. And then also on the west side around Good Samaritan Hospital. So there's a lot of activity going on. And rest assured that, we have not forgotten about downtown, but we also need to spread the love throughout the community.
And Rob, if I just may add one additional thing. I believe it's the intent for Trout Brook development not to compete with our downtown. We do expect the restaurants, the bars, the cultural events to remain downtown. We're not looking to compete with our downtown through this development, but only supplement it by adding the commercial flex, which would bring workers that would hopefully seek lunch or dinner downtown, and also the residents both in the new single-family neighborhood and the potential developments closer to our police station to bring more bodies to downtown to so that commercial development will stay in our downtown. So this Trout Brook development is not looking to directly compete with our downtown. And then lastly,
Good point.
Ward 5 actually could probably use some more development. So, the more the better for 5. That's what I believe.
Well, I have promised Councilor Nicastro some attention, so.
Mr. May, Mr. Jenkins, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, this is Bob. I'm registered as Bob Riley. This is the Club National 170 Court Street. And our president has a question you'd like you to consider.
Yes, we've been a fixture in this city for 100 years. We're at 170 Court Street, and what is your intention for our relocation?
At this point in time, I'd have to look into a crystal ball.
Right.
There is no intention for your relocation at this point. We've identified your site as a possible acquisition disposition. If there a developer that comes around, say for instance, if a developer comes and wants to acquire your property, you guys work out a sales price, you'll come to the redevelopment authority or that developer and say, okay, we want to be relocated in the same area with the same, if not better building. What are you going to do and where are you going to relocate us? Of course, we'd sit with you and try to find it, but this is just a,
Right.
I'm looking at all best case scenario, where you're going to, it's all speculation at this point. So here's the thing, here's a good thing that I can tell you. You've been here for how long?
100 years.
I don't think you're going anywhere, to be quite honest.
Okay. All right.
If anything, you're gonna, if anything, and I think the redevelopment authority looks at it, you're an institution in the city. You're an institution. We're gonna do our best to keep you not where you're at, but maybe somewhere close.
Right.
Better built. Well, like I said, I'm just speculating. But you're an institution. It's hard
I was
to.
going to say, I would like to see them incorporated into the development.
Agreed.
This is an opportunity. You have the Club National, but then you have some lesser quality properties behind you. And if a developer were to come in and, let's say, acquire that whole block or work with you to acquire that block, there's no reason why you couldn't become a tenant and or owner of new space in that development. Nobody wants to pay rent, but there's no reason why we couldn't condo out, or the developer couldn't condo out floor space for you and parking, so that you don't move very far at all.
Yeah, well, we own the building.
Right.
And as far as paying rent or anything like that, that wouldn't be fair as far as I'm concerned.
No, there's ways of
Like
doing
you
it.
said, it's speculation. So right now, I'm not as concerned as I was earlier when I spoke with one of the gentlemen from the enterprise. And so you guys have made me feel a little bit more comfortable about what's going to happen. So I have no problem with it. We'll look forward to working with you, and we'll do what we have to do.
Well, thanks for participating tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? I know at one point the question was why we have to do this now. I think the answer to that is one thing you always want to be prepared is for opportunity. I know right now everyone's concerned about the pandemic and COVID, and well, they should be. But at some point, we're going to come out of this. And the city needs to be prepared. As a gateway city, we need to be prepared. We need to put the city in the best position to take advantage of any opportunities that make themselves available.
Excuse me, Robert, now that you've brought up COVID, would you like to say a word about the CDBG funds that you're working with for small businesses?
Absolutely. Sure. As folks may or may not know, the city did receive its first round of COVID of $841,000 plus. What we did with those funds is we gave $500,000 or allocated $500,000 to small business assistance up to $10,000. That program is being operated and run by Mass Hire Workforce, along with the BRA. We also gave $250,000 to rental assistance for families in transition. And we gave $100,000, up to $100,000 to the Charity Guild for expansion of their food pantry right here on Main Street. The second, we were fortunate enough and happy actually that the city really did need these funds. Another $937,000 from HUD. We received that actually 2 weeks ago this Friday, or a week ago last Friday on September 11th from HUD. There's still, the mayor and I are still talking what we should do with those funds. There is a pressing need, I have to say, for Brockton and our residents for rental assistance and mortgage assistance for people who are either out of work, furloughed, reduced to part-time. It's going to be a very serious and kind of scary issue here in the city. As you know, our unemployment is the highest unemployment in Plymouth County. Our folks of low and moderate and elderly are probably the most vulnerable people in the county. So we're looking at that very closely. I'm sure the mayor's going to have a decision on that probably in the next week or two. It's going to be required that the Brockton Redevelopment Authority hold a public meeting. I'll be doing a number of public meetings in the month of October. I just want you folks to know that just keep an eye out on our website. We're always looking for public comment. That's the one thing, that's part of our job, is to kind of get public comment, express that to the mayor and the leadership, city council, to let folks know how folks are feeling and what's going on and what is the need of the city. So thank you, Rob, for that reminder.
You're welcome.
So we're coming up at 6:22.
I had a question that popped into the chat.
Excellent.
It says, during the process, will we be able to put our property for sale? The answer is yes.
Yes.
And that's 180 Elliott Street. Yes, you will. It's probably best that you disclose that the property is within an urban renewal district. And I'm going to a map now to see which piece of property it is. The property backs up onto Trout Brook. Yes. So we know that several of the homes over there have had flooding issues, and especially to the north of that area. But yes, you will be able to put your home up for sale. Thank you for that question. Okay, as Robert said earlier, this is the first of two additional public meetings that we'll be having. We'll also be posting questions and answers on the city's webpage and on Robert's webpage at the Redevelopment Authority. You can email questions to planning@cobma.us, COB, City of Brockton, MA.us. And Robert, you are at Robert@Brockton Redevelopment Authority. That's all one word.
It's R. Jenkins. Sorry, Rob. It's R. Jenkins, JENKINS, at redevelopmentauthority.com. All right.
My bad.
You can always go to the website and get my information.
Rob, I just wanted to thank both of you for a well put together meeting on the mayor's behalf in the office. A good job. It was good seeing everything, public opinion coming in, and I look forward to the next one. I just wanted to let you know before we, end the session.
Thank you much, sir.
Thank you, John.
Counselor Thompson, I am going to give you the last word. I feel like a radio announcer for some reason, but if you would like to say something.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Rob. Thank you all for joining us today. Again, this is another step in this process. This conversation has not ended today. It has only begun. We look forward to seeing you for our next public meeting on October 15th. And, all your input is welcome. And please, if you have any questions, send them to to Rob May or Rob Jenkins. They will be answered. And I appreciate that. If we're doing announcements, don't forget 2020 census. It's still happening. Please, if you have not yet filled out your census, please do it today. Vitally important for our city. Again, thank you all for attending, and we look forward to the next conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that,
Also, if you've done the census and you know someone who hasn't, get them to fill out the census, please.
And don't forget to vote.
And don't forget to vote.
All right. Thank you, guys. Dinner time. See you all.
Thank you. Good job, Rob.
We'll be posting the recording online on our website.
Excellent.